Hey there friends, glad to be back today. And today we want to deep dive more into signs and symptoms of BPD, specifically impulsive and risky behaviors. And we really want to zero in on the drug and alcohol abuse. And I know that many of you know that this is obviously a very obvious one, but we're going to deep dive into that today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and give us a like here on this video if it helps you, enlightens you, or you can help somebody else and give this to them to be able to watch and get some information they need. Let's deep dive into this. BPD and alcoholism can definitely go hand in hand. And the reason for that is when we are dealing with BPD, there's extreme emotional changes, right? It's just extreme emotional changes. There's constant fear. There's anxiety, there's depression. Self-harming behavior is not something new. And when we do different types of behavior, it can actually help to feel as though you're escaping the problems, escaping the anxiety, escaping the fear, burying those feelings, at least for a moment's time. This is not a long-term solution, but a lot of times, remember, when we're dealing with these types of behavior, we're not really thinking about outcomes. We're not thinking about what's going to happen if I do X, Y, Z. We're just trying to solve the problem in the moment. So when we think about drug and alcohol addiction and abuse, this is something that can help in the moment, but is definitely not a long-term solution. That's why they call it self-medicating. The extreme emotional changes, obviously, is a major component of alcohol and drug abuse when it comes to people that have signs and symptoms of BPD. And now remember, many people can have alcohol or drug addiction. You do not have to have borderline personality disorder to have that. But we're just talking specifically about this particular sign and symptom involving impulsive, risky behavior. So besides the emotional component that makes drug and alcohol abuse a go-to response for someone that has BPD signs and symptoms, there's also a physiological situation too. There's a biological situation that's not just emotional. And that's something that we really need to take into consideration as well, because people can actually crave alcohol and it can stimulate the endogenous opioid system, or the EOS, which is often understimulated with folks that have BPD signs and symptoms. And the endogenous opioids and their receptors are distributed through the nervous system, and it regulates pain, emotion, reward, stress responses, motivation, and drug addiction. And it's interesting because cocaine and opioids act similarly in the EOS and are the most abused drugs among people that have signs and symptoms of borderline personality disorder. And what happens here when somebody's drinking quite a bit, that can cause memory and concentration issues, which can also cause more behavioral issues as well, because somebody could get angry that they don't remember things. They could also act out even more, even become more impulsive in the situation too, forgetting or not remembering what took place. So why does somebody partake in this behavior? Why does somebody partake in this behavior? Why is this a common form of self-medication? The first one is escaping one's feelings, right? To escape one's feelings and emotions, it's easy to numb someone's emotions with alcohol, numb someone's emotions with cocaine or with cocaine or opioids. And in that moment, feeling better in the moment, right? And feeling more in control because you're controlling the drugs, you're controlling the alcohol, and you feel as though you have your emotions somewhat in check because there's probably a control feeling, but there's also a numbing feeling. The other concept too is used to regulate emotions to ease the pain. So the pain that somebody's going through, the pain of their life, the pain that they're feeling, the struggle that they're feeling in that moment while doing drugs and alcohol, or a combination of both, can be eased in that moment. And so they're not focusing on their pain, they're not having to deal with that for that moment, even though it's going to come back tenfold. In that moment, they feel pretty good. Another aspect, like I just said, is the control. They can control that. So they can control the alcohol that they're drinking. They control the drugs that they're using. Nobody can tell them that they can't do that. So that's another aspect that they might feel more in control. Even though alcohol and drugs can make us out of control, the fact that we're using it and we're able to do it can also make us feel like we're more in control of ourselves. Another part of that is the social component. So being able to interact socially can be a lot easier when you're not feeling that fear or that anxiety or those really strong emotions. So having a few drinks at a social event can take the edge off. Having some drugs or an opioid or something like that can also calm you down, calm your nerves down as well. So that fear, that fight or flight's gone. And so being able to interact more with people that you might not be able to interact with, being able to find more common ground because you're just kind of more loose and not up in here so much, that can also be a factor, that having that social aid and using this as a social crutch. And last but not least is the entertainment value. There's an entertainment value in doing drugs and alcohol. It's a ritual, and it can be used alone as well. So oftentimes when somebody's drinking, they may be drinking alone. They may be drinking alone to suppress their feelings, to not feel even more alone. If I have that fear of abandonment and that fear of being alone, the more I drink or the more drugs I consume in that moment, I'm not going to remember that I'm alone. I'm not going to be focusing on it so much, except for the next day when I wake up. But even then, I'm going to be groggy or tired or fatigued, where I'm not going to be able to be angry or super emotional because I'm so fatigued and so tired. But eventually, that's going to drum up again. And that's why you have those cycle patterns of alcoholism and drug addiction, is because there comes a point where you hit the wall and everything comes right back, flooding right back. That emotion comes right back. And so you're going to have to numb it or suppress it again. And so that's why that pattern is consistent a lot of times, and why you see it hand in hand with people that do have signs and symptoms of BPD. Remember, again, you can drink or be an alcoholic, or you can use drugs without having borderline personality disorder completely, but we're really just focusing on this particular behavior and the symptom. And so remembering that this can really help somebody to feel more in control in the moment, to be able to dissipate some of that fear and anxiety. But unfortunately, it's not a cure-all because it doesn't work long-term. It's actually very short-term, and that's why it has such addiction component, is because you want to feel that same feeling again and escape those feelings that you don't want to feel. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done it. It helps us know that we're doing what's right and that our content is good and it's connecting with you. In the comment section, let me know, did this content resonate with you? Do you feel like I covered the topic thoroughly? Is there anything that you would add as well? I'd love to hear from you. And in the meantime, don't forget to live your true life.